Guys, it looks like people are kind of filtering in here. Today, I wanted to talk to y'all about some expired listings. Best practices. I'm not sure if Paul is on here or not. He's probably one of the more proficient people I know at working expireds. But we've only got about 30 minutes, so that'll probably be more than enough just to cover the basics that I was planning to jump into here. Hopefully, hey, there's Jimmy. Hopefully, many of you have worked expired. If you haven't, we're going to show you real quickly some of the ways to actually make this work, starting kind of at the very beginning. So again, hopefully everybody join us here, but I'm going to share my screen. If you've got any questions, unmute and ask, and I'll be happy to address those as best I possibly can. Now this month in particular through May, we're trying to encourage one listing per agent for the month of May, at least at a minimum. So I know in our Junction office that number is 66. Montrose is 23. It's going to vary obviously by office, but man, if we can get one listing per person for the month of May, we'll be in really good shape. And so this is just one more tool to get to that end. All right, jump into this here. Some of this stuff to go away. Okay, so everybody's got a little bit different MLS, obviously, and so in some cases, I know that a lot of the state of Colorado runs on Paragon. But everybody has a hot sheet, Market Monitor, something like that. And so real quick here, there is the expired tab. Now you could go search in your stuff to go see if you can track down the expireds in that way. And honestly, if you're going back, this is just what's going on today in the last couple days. But one of your best practices maybe go back a year, 2 years even, in some cases, to start working those. And I want to show you real quick what we're basically going to do here. So we've got our expireds, which this is beyond my comprehension, to be completely honest. How you don't sell a $263,000 house in the Northeast area in Grand Junction right now. I don't know how that ended up expired. So hopefully somebody's already working on this if it's not back on the market anyway. It's always kind of best practice before you start making any of these phone calls to make sure that the property is not back on the market, because the last thing you would do is start doing any sign crossing. So what I'll typically do is I'll go through here real quickly, just take a look at some stuff. This property has a really kind of weak description, but that shouldn't have been enough to keep it from selling. There might be some other stuff I don't know about, but I already know that I can talk to them about. I know I can do a better description. I can do this. I can do this. You don't want to talk down about the other agent when you're doing this kind of stuff. And I've got some scripts I can share with you guys, but you definitely don't want to talk the other agent down. But at the same time, this gives you some ammo on what you need to talk about to differentiate yourself from that agent, and without putting them down. That is key. You don't have no idea what their relationship is. So the main question that I typically get when it comes to expired listings is, how do I get their information? Holy cow. Phone exploding. Okay, so this is the easiest way I've seen yet to do that. TruePeopleSearch.com. This is free. So TruePeopleSearch.com, you can look by name, phone number. In this case, we want a name, so we're going to go to the address field here, 2896 West Hermosa Court in Grand Junction. Whoa, settle down. And just like that, Emily A. Steiner Phone number 970-257-9771. That freaking easy. This doesn't work on every single property, but man, I think I've seen one that didn't give a phone number. In some cases, I'll give you 3 phone numbers plus an email address. This is a game changer when it comes to going after expireds. We've been talking a lot about Airbnb and VRBOs. You can get those addresses. This is, again, the place you're going to go to get that. So I can look up Emily's number, Alex's number, both of them landlines. Are 26 years old. Kind of weird. Just saying. 23 years old. But you've got all these, again, these are all the same things. You can even look up people that know them, their past addresses, possible relatives, possible associates. You might be able to find a connection to get to this person that you actually already are friends with or something like that on Facebook. Anybody have any questions on that process? That was pretty quick. Is anybody
over here? It was pretty straightforward, but you know, you do have to be careful when you get on True People Search. Like this lady was 21 years old. She might be the daughter of the owner. And so if you scroll down, because they could be a renter too. So you kind of want to scroll down and dig a little bit deeper sometimes.
Well, and verify that with the county assessor, right? Like, because if it is a tenant, you know, that's not going to do you as much good, obviously, if you're trying to secure that listing. But yeah, if you verify that against the county assessor page, then that way you know, okay, this is the people I'm looking for. Here's their phone number.
And so my next question is, the first thing you said is make sure it's not relisted. And I ran into that the other day. I got super excited about land that somebody was interested in. It said expired. Well, it turned out I had to do a different kind of search to find it. What's the best way to make sure it's not relisted? I mean, I typed the address and I didn't find it right away. It took me a couple of tries.
Well, the best way to actually, in some cases, so I know you're on Paragon. Paragon, you can just hit the history button and that'll look at the address history. Actually, I'll show you that. And that will show you, get back into the right thing here and reshare my screen. Okay. So on here, again, this is in Paragon. I know it works in Navica as well, depending on where you're at. Hit history. This is going to show like price changes, that kind of stuff, or if it loads. It'll also then show if the place has been relisted with another agent already, or maybe relisted even by the same agent. It will show up in here. It looks like it's not going to want to play nice with the screen share.
Oh, but you're right. That is how I found out, actually. It's on hitting history, and for some reason I couldn't see it active. But yes.
Right. So this is an easy way. I would still double check it. Paul Zerk has joined us.
I am. Yeah, I'm here. Can everybody hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay.
So I asked Paul to join us because honestly, Paul does probably more of this work, chasing around expireds, than most, and has certainly developed one of the better systems about how he goes about it. Obviously, one of the things I know Paul normally does is he'll go knock on the door. It's a bit of a challenge.
I will knock on the door. What I also do is I use White Pages, and I pay a monthly subscription to that. So White Pages gives you the same information. I haven't looked at the program that Mark uses to find contact information, but
Mark, can you stop sharing your screen?
Also. Yep. What's that?
Sorry, just so we can see him.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sorry about that.
Can't see me. How do I do that?
No, we can see you. We can see you.
That was on my end. You're good, Paul.
Okay. Also, what I do is I call, I leave a message, I even text. And also, if I don't get replies to either one of those, I go knock on their door. I
Yeah,
think it's
Jimmy.
important. I think it's
Jimmy had a
important to call
question.
these. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Jimmy had a question. Is what about the no call list when it comes to calling expireds?
Well, I would encourage you to kind of to follow that, but I don't really do that. If they say something to me about I'm on the no call list, my immediate reply is, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I will never call you again, and I apologize. Blah blah blah. Put you on my no call list," and then and that pretty much clears that up. So I don't search these numbers to make sure that they're not on the no call list. If you want to do that, that's up to you. I have never done that. So
I think depending on how you're looking up their phone number, some of them might tell you even.
oh, they will, yeah.
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 Which is good. Then you just skip it, right?
Right.
But
I just skip it. Yep.
And Paul, do you
Yeah.
have a specific script that you use when in fact you reach them by phone or at the door or however you do it?
Well, and I'm aware of all of the scripts. And back when I started doing this 25 years ago, Mike Ferry had a script that I used, and Tom Ferry uses that same script now, where he asks multiple questions and so forth, like what did you like about the last agent, or disliked about the last agent, and how many showings did you have, and all that stuff. I don't find that real beneficial. And if you want to use that to follow, I think it's great, but I don't use that script anymore. I keep my scripts pretty simple. Basically, when they answer the phone, I just tell them that, hey, I noticed that your house was for sale. It came up as an expired in our multiple list system, and I was just wondering if you still needed to get it sold.
I think the simplicity is kind of key. That the Mike Ferry thing, it's actually a really good training tool, right? Because it gets you through all the objections. But the reality is, any script that's that long, hopefully you've diverged from there by the time that script's over, right? So
Yeah,
it's the
paraphrasing
beginning of the line is key, and then having the knowledge of the rest of it is what really matters. And I downloaded 5 different scripts that I could find floating around out there yesterday. And it's so funny. They all start almost exactly the same as Mike Ferry because they all started from it. And then they diverge in one way or the other. Some of them are better than others, but it's a fascinating thing. And I'll get those shared out to everybody just so you can play with them. But yeah, it's knowing the objection handlers is the important piece to the whole script process.
Yeah, it's very important. Usually I use a lot of those after I get the appointment and when I'm in front of them. I don't use a lot of those over the phone. And I don't know why. I'm not saying they don't work. It's just that's what kind of works best for me. To just ask the one simple question. And of course, identify myself and ask the one simple question is, you still need to get your house sold?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the most important one, because trying to figure out their motivation. Also, one of the things, I don't know if it's in the Mike Ferry script or if it's in another one, but okay, what was the plan? Like, where were you planning to go? What's your time frame? Why did you need to be over there? Something to that effect. So when they can start realizing, like, that's the pain point. They didn't get to wherever they were trying to go. Adam Greenberg, he mentioned contacting through Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I mean, wherever you can get a hold of these folks. Sometimes you can't get a good phone number, but you got a good name for sure. Well, everybody's on something at this point. Any other questions, guys, on some of these?
So can I just interject on a few things here, Mark?
Yeah, please do.
So really, I do this on a daily basis. Sometimes there's quite a few expired. Sometimes they're not. Of course, real estate agents are real dogmatic when they start putting their listings in. They make them all expire at the end of the month and things like that. So the best day to start doing this is the first of the month. That's when you're going to find the majority of them. But I know that you were talking earlier about this one on Hermosa that came up this morning. You want to jump on these right away. back when I started doing this a long time ago, an agent and I would race to the office every morning to see who could get there first, to see who, could call these expireds first, because I think it's very important to be the first agent to connect with them, because they're only going to schedule appointments with 1 or 2 people. That's it. After that, they're done, and they're probably going to stop taking calls. So you want to jump on these as early as possible. I've even jumped on them at 7:30 in the morning while I'm sitting and, having my morning coffee. So I
Got a
think
couple of
that's important
questions
to do.
that are along those lines, Paul. If one, Jimmy asked, what time in the morning do you start calling? I guess I would add to that, obviously it's 7:30, but I'd add to that, what do you feel is too early? And then there's another one that was, do you ever write a note and mail it, or do you always call? And I think you kind of answered that, but.
Yeah, I don't mail expireds. I mail other things, but I do not mail expireds. I will knock on their door and leave them a note. And I have these notes that I had made up. It has, our logo on it, our name and our phone number. I'm talking about Robin and I. And what the note just says call me about your house. So
Yeah, simple.
stick those on the door. I don't do any mailings or whatever. And I just feel it looks more like a personal note here. I have one in my glove box. Let me show it to you. Giving away all my trade secrets here, but I don't know if you can see this note. But it's just a sticky note. And I just stick it on their front door, on their garage door, or wherever, and it just says, call me about your house.
Wow. Yeah,
That's
simple.
it.
Does that work pretty well?
And it works. People are calling me and they said, well, I got this note. It says, call me about my house. And they don't know, really can't figure out what it's about. And then I just tell them, so those work pretty well. Yeah. And I had like over 1,000 of these printed up. So
that's so great.
Little sticky notes.
That's a Tom Ferry. That's a Tom Ferry secret. Call me about your house. Cause they're like, okay, why?
Yeah. Fail? Like my sprinklers blow up.
Right. So
better call them.
Right. Awesome. And so they just automatically call me, which is great.
That's perfect. That's amazing. So do you think there's a time that's too early in the morning?
Right. And I don't usually call. Sometimes I'll start calling. It depends on what I have going, but I usually do not start calling until after 7:30 in the morning. But like I said, then usually it's at 8 a.m. It just depends on what I have going that day and so forth. But I try to make these calls every single day is what I try to do. And sometimes they're not, there's not that many expireds. Sometimes there's no expireds. Sometimes they're all the way in Ridgeway or somewhere else, and I could care less about driving up there and talking to them or contacting them. So I kind of pick and choose which ones I want to contact and which ones I don't want to contact. I usually don't call the commercial ones at all.
Sure.
Ridgeway and Montrose, just send them my way.
Right. Absolutely. Delphine will take them. She'll go to Ridgeway.
Right. Sure. But that's just a little bit too far for me. But if I see where they are, and I don't call them. So you want to call them, go ahead.
So Paul, do you put any other caveats other than commercial and area issues? Like if you see something that's way out of line price-wise, you still call them?
Well, what I'll do at that point is I'll get on the Metro or in the MLS, and I'll look at the history. And there's a lot of agents right now. I'm not going to mention any companies, but there's some companies that allow their agents to list properties for like 2 weeks. And I have not found that those are that beneficial to call. I have tried to do that in the past, but I'm not the kind of agent that just wants to take a listing for 2 weeks, and I don't want to deal with people that are just trying to, get an exorbitant price for their house and so forth. So if it's something that's been on the market for a while and they've had numerous price reductions, then I think those things are great. And even if they haven't had price reductions, a lot of agents don't communicate on a regular basis with their clients. And I always try to give them market updates and things like that, you know, and I know that Caldwell Banker really praises that. So that's one reason that I try to give them updates on that, just to stay in communication with them and let them know what's going on in the market. I do that on a weekly basis. And I think that also helps with price reductions and things like that. But there's a lot of agents out there that don't do that.
Yeah, I'd be willing to bet that that's this Hermosa situation. 83,
Most of them,
83
yes.
days on the market with that price in this
Most of them.
market.
Right.
Now,
Right.
I know that in the past you've gone back, go back a couple of years, months, whatever. In some cases, I mean, right now, I think I'd probably go back to right around the beginning of all this meltdown, and look at those expireds and terminations and otherwise. What are you usually doing when you're going after those older expired things, or how often do you do that?
Typically, I do that in either I start preparing to do that in December, so I can start making the calls January 1. But those are real tricky. They're time consuming because you got to go back and see if they're relisted. You got to go back into public records. Maybe they've sold somewhere, for sale by owner or something like that. So you have to do your research on that. But that's a great thing to do. And I've gotten multiple listings doing that. But it is time consuming to get prepared to do that. So you just have to be diligent and do that. I've even gone back 2 or 3 years and have done the same thing because people's motivation changes and they have different circumstances happen. And who knows, 2 or 3 years ago, they could have been just kind of testing the market a little bit. So usually I go back about 2 years at the beginning of the year. Start getting prepared to do that in December. Some of those people I've already talked to in the past, so they recognize me, they remember me, but that's just something that they're impressed with. Wow, this guy is really
Still following up.
making an effort here, and he's what I like to call an active prospector, an active marketer. So I'm not the type of agents to just sit and wait for something to happen. And I express that to people. Look, I'm not going to advertise your property. I'm more of an active marketer. I talk to hundreds of people a week about real estate in the Grand Junction area. And, this goes back to the Mike Ferry thing. Isn't that the kind of agent you want?
Right. Right.
So
exactly. Jimmy had another question. Are you still putting sticky notes on doors during COVID? Any negative feedback?
We have not been putting sticky notes on any doors during COVID. But not to say that it wouldn't work, but yeah, it's a little tricky. Yeah. I'm
just wondering about the direct interaction versus kind of an indirect interaction. You throw a sticky note on a door with your card and
Sure.
You're out of there. And so you're not necessarily door knocking because this whole COVID-19 is like shut down the whole door knocking concept. So, the next best thing is now circle dialing, circle prospecting.
Sure.
But now are we too early to be throwing a sticky note on a door and just saying, hey, call me about your house and moving forward with it. So
I think that if you were to, so just as an example, they're repainting the numbers on the curb in front of my house and the whole neighborhood, right? And so they put a sticky note on my door to tell me that was going on 2 days ago, right? So, and I didn't even think twice about it. Just a note on my door. I'm like, what the heck is that? Go over and grab it. UPS misses you. You need signatures. You still got a sticky note on the door right now, right? So actually, door knocking itself, I could see would be problematic. But walking up there and just throw that thing on the front of their mailbox or on the actual door itself, probably better than door knocking traditionally.
Follow that up with some circle prospecting and
correct 100%.
Got it.
Sure. Yep.
So yeah,
so you got to remember when I do those sticky notes, I've already texted the people, I've already called and left them a voicemail. So even if they don't recognize my name, they're gonna, at least another opportunity to get in front of them and make contact with them. So
Fantastic. All right. To wrap up here, real quick, because we're almost out of time, only goes till 12:30. The biggest thing with expireds, and the thing that makes them a bit of a gold mine, to be completely honest, is the fact that you know that that person wants to sell their house. Like, they've already conveyed, they already went through the process, they already signed on with an agent, they've had people through their house, they've done the whole thing. You know that they actually want to sell,
Well,
unlike for sell by owners, which may be kind of, maybe if I get the money.
expireds are more motivated to list their property and to sell their property than a for sale by owner. Expireds have already tested the market with their price, with all of the marketing that the other real estate company did, and so forth. So these are people, even if they had a time frame, well, I want to move within 3 months, and their house is listed for 3 months, and they didn't get to sell it and move on with their lives, they are extremely motivated. So they're much easier to deal with than working with for sale by owners. And I prospected for sale by owners too. I still do that occasionally, but I find that expireds are much easier to work with and much more knowledgeable about the whole system and so forth than for sale by owners. And expireds may not like their last real estate agent, but they're real open to hearing about what you have to do and what you bring to the party.
So we've got another question here real quick, which is an interesting one. I think I feel like I know the answer to this, but I'd love to hear your input, Paul. It says, are you having have you had more luck working expireds from a year ago or a more recent expired? I would say if it expired yesterday and I'm talking to him today, that's a very warm lead, right? A year ago, maybe they just decided to say, screw it.
Right. And I find that, if the sooner you can get them, the better.
Right.
And so if you can find them the day of, that's the best time to sign them up, because that's when they're most motivated and still thinking about selling their house. A year later, I mean, I've ran into a lot of people, well, I've rented the house now, and, something to that effect. Or so I think the quicker you can jump on them, the better.
Yeah. The old expireds is a lead gen source when there's no other expireds to work. I mean, just another option, but it definitely is a little bit different animal.
Yeah. Last year I did hook up with an investor, going through and calling them, after a year, and he has probably 15 rental properties in the Grand Junction area that he's going to liquidate over the next 2 years. So as renters move out and so forth. So that was a real good follow-up a year from now. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's 12:30 and we got to wrap it up. But hopefully you gained something from that. I'll get the scripts that I found out so we can throw those into IQ. There's a handful of them. Play around with them. We'll have to go through a little bit longer, a little bit more in-depth thing where we can actually do some role play with that. But thank you guys, everybody, for joining us, and have a great weekend and happy Mother's Day.
Yep.
Thanks,
okay. Mark.
What's going on, Heidi?
There were a couple more questions. Adam Greenberg said opposite. I mean, I don't know.
Sure.
Everyone's going to have, I guess, different experiences.
And the main thing is whatever you're doing, you want to be consistent at doing it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. If he's more successful at doing the ones from a year ago, that's great.
Nothing wrong with that.
Had a good experience with those too. Yep.
Happy Mother's Day, all you mothers.
Happy Mother's Day. See ya.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.